This is the Vision 79 podcast, where my friend Sander and myself, Mason, discuss recent developments in our business and personal growth. The name Vision 79 comes from our racing numbers. Sander's is 40, mine is 39, and we have a shared vision for success in business and our personal lives. Many successful people have started small, just like us, but very few of them have documented their early years. They often say they wish they had, and given we believe in learning lessons from others, we intend to be the first to document our journey from start to finish. Today, we'll be discussing the pros and cons of social media, how it can influence our self-worth and decision-making, how we navigate social media and its landscape, and much more. But first, we like to start each episode with a brief update of where we're at in our business and personal lives so that when we go and look back on these episodes in the future, we can gauge roughly where we're at in our process. So what do you have for business this week?
Business this week was all dropshipping focused, primarily, at least. So I ran 2 test campaigns, my first test campaigns on the store that I acquired. The first one largely failed, and then the second one failed slightly less, but also failed. So,
But better.
failed, but better. Yeah.
Okay, that's good. That's progress.
Yeah. So what I learned is that it's interesting.
How do you determine failed?
Yeah, so I'll get into that a little bit, but essentially what I'm looking at is ROAS, which is return on ad spend.
Yeah.
The previous week I was looking at cost per purchase or cost per action, and the action is defined as purchase as I've defined it in the campaign. So that I was looking at prior. The problem is that it doesn't account for, like, if people buy 2 at the same time under one order, I might make, double the amount of money, and so I can actually increase my cost per acquisition if people are buying 2 at a time, right? But it doesn't reflect.
Right.
If I let's say I have a $50 product and my wholesale cost is 20, then my cost per acquisition would have to be 30. But if I have a $50 product and also a $90 option if you buy 2, that cost per acquisition can now increase dramatically,
Right.
for me to still retain a break-even margin or profit.
Right.
And so the ROAS, return on ad spend, actually feeds back to Shopify and will calculate that. And then you calculate your minimum ROAS that you need, your minimum return on ad spend.
Yeah.
And then you can look at the return on ad spend of your different campaigns and see if they're at the minimum or below or above or whatever.
But that doesn't calculate if you buy more than one at a time.
It does. It does, right? So if I get a bunch of sales that are like a 2-pack at,
Right.
let's say in our example
90.
product 90,
Yeah.
right? Then the return on ad spend will go up dramatically.
Right.
Even though the order count is the same, now I have a lot more margin in terms of, like, my cost per acquisition for those specific orders.
Got it.
And that's reflected in the ROAS. It's not reflected in the, like, minimum cost per acquisition that I need, right?
And it calculates that automatically. So
the ROAS is calculated automatically based on
Got it.
that. And Facebook has, like, an internal calculation for that. So that's what I've been looking at this week. That's what I was recommended to by my mentor. Don't pay attention to cost per acquisition. Just look at ROAS. That's your main metric for figuring out if campaigns are doing well or doing poorly. I created an Excel sheet to document gross sales, returns, if any, ad costs, and fulfillment costs for each day. And then I fill out that as a table metric, and I do it by week. So I created that Excel spreadsheet, and I also created an Excel spreadsheet that I input my product price and my wholesale cost, and it automatically calculates my minimum ROAS to break even, what is 20% under that, and what is 20% over that.
Error margins,
right? And then I have a table where I just input my ROAS for each campaign I'm running, and I have it, like, day by day.
It tells you.
And then it's color formatted so that based on those 20% higher or lower, it'll go red to green. And so I have this tabulated table of, like, red and green.
Right.
And then I can see, okay, what is very visually and easily, what's doing well, what's doing poorly. And then I have a flow diagram and chart that my mentor provided to me that says, like, if your campaign in the last 7 days has had 2 to 3 days below your break-even ROAS, or it says KPI, your key performance indicator, which for me is ROAS. If it's, if there are 2 or 3 days out of the past 7 days that it's done below your KPI ROAS for me, then decrease ad spend by 20%, right? And so then I know, okay, based on this flow diagram and my my ROAS metrics that I'm looking at, I see that this campaign in the last 7 days has had 3 days at break even or below, my target ROAS. So I know I need to decrease ad spend by 20%. And then it's like, if in the last 48 hours you've consistently seen above KPI performance, ROAS for me, increase by 25% or whatever. It's a whole like flowchart breakdown of like kind of how to navigate scaling your ad spend versus decreasing your ad spend to optimize it.
Right.
And so I've been working through that with my campaigns and running them in that fashion, which has been really helpful. And it saves me having to ask a bunch of questions to my mentor of like, what do I do with this? Like, do I turn this up? Do I turn it down? Whatever, blah, blah. Because now it's just like a calculator, and it also takes out the like instinctual panic, like, oh man, it's not doing well kind of thing.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like, okay, I gotta wait 3 days for this. Like, I can't touch it. Like, I know it's failing right now, but I have to wait 3 days. Right. And so that just kind of takes the panic, feeling out of going through that process, which I enjoy. So I've been doing that.
You enjoy the panic process?
No. I enjoy being taken out, right? Because it's like, now I have like something to look at and know like, okay, this is good versus bad.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it kind of just solidifies my trajectory a little bit.
So what we talked about last week was sometimes if your ROAS isn't great, it's just because in the grand scheme of Facebook, it's not being put in front of as many people. And so sometimes the answer is sinking more money into ads. So if there's an ad that isn't converting well and you're like 20% under your ROAS, you can decrease the spending, which would then increase the potency of your sales, right? But if it puts it in front of less people, I guess the gamble in decreasing the amount of ad spend is, will a similar number of people buy it such that I'm not sinking as much money into the ads? So you're hoping that it converts well, but doesn't put in front of as many people, right?
Yeah, I don't have a definitive answer on it. From what I've seen and the people I've talked to, essentially what happens when you decrease your ad spend for a given campaign by like, let's say 20%.
Yeah.
Is that Facebook sees that and it goes, okay, now I have less money to play with. I'm going to hit only the exact target demographics that have bought previously.
Got it.
And so it's like a lot more targeted. I think when you start to increase, the reason that if it's doing really well, you start to increase is that now Facebook sees it's like, oh, now I have a little bit more money to play with. Let me play with these other demographic groups to see if I can get any hits there.
Yeah.
Problem is that if you're at a low ad spend and the campaign's trying to learn, right? If you start increasing ad spend, it doesn't really know what to do. And if you start decreasing, it doesn't know what to do either because you haven't given it enough time to learn what demographics work and what don't. Right. So that's why when you run a new test campaign, you have to give it 4 days. Because you can't just give it a day and be like, oh, it failed and then turn it off, because Facebook doesn't have enough data, or you can't even decrease ad spend after a day because Facebook doesn't have enough data to optimize that decreased ad spend to target someone because it doesn't know who to target.
Right.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's not your money doesn't reflect number of people that your ad is put in front of.
That's the other thing I wanted to answer too. I had a question about this to my mentor earlier this week as well, because I was like, hey, I see that my campaign I'm running at 175 a day reaches 5,500 people a day, and my campaign that I'm running at 100 a day reaches 1,300 people a day. How with a $75 increase, I'm 5xing or 4.5xing the amount of people that I reach? And he was like, honestly, the impressions that you're looking at, that metric is kind of bullshit in Facebook. But yes, it does scale slightly exponentially as you increase ad spend.
Right.
So there is a factor of that. But if a campaign is going to do well, it should at least do okay given 4 days at $100 a day, right? If it's not doing well over 4 days at $100 a day, like we're just completely flopping, then and you try to decrease ad spend by 20% and it still flops, then it's probably just not working well.
Right. But also your $100 a day at 1,300 people versus 175 at 5,500. If you let's say the 5,500 isn't doing super great, you can knock that 175 down 20% to like whatever, 130, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe it drops from 5,500 to like 3,000, but you're getting more sales and your ROAS is good.
That's actually exactly what I did on Friday night. So for yesterday and today, we're filming on Sunday. So Saturday and Sunday, I was at 225 a day. I decreased 20% down to 175, right? And I saw an increase in the number of sales.
Decrease in number of cases.
Decrease in number of faces, increase in number of sales, and a really good increase in ROAS, return on ad spend.
Right.
And so I kind of saw that. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm hoping that continues and it continues to build what target demographic works really well. And I can give it a couple days, 2 to 3 days, and then go back to it and try to increase it 20% and see if I can get a better bump now that it kind of knows what to hit a little bit better. Right. Yeah. So that's kind of that process, what I've been going through. But this week, between testing those 2 campaigns, to test both of those cost about 1,000, I think, total. Because it was a little over a week. I started the first campaign prior to this week. So between those 2 campaigns, it was over $1,000 in ad spend for sure. And they weren't profitable, so I didn't make money this week. I didn't even break even. I lost, maybe 500-600 total, something like that.
But you made last week.
I made last week.
So monthly, you're probably only read a little bit, right?
Yeah, I'm read at like a few hundred or something like
It's
that.
not bad.
Yeah.
It's the price of learning. It's education.
Yeah, and it's the price of testing too. Like, I learned a lot from testing. What I'm finding is I started looking at the campaigns that my mentor is made when I acquired it, and kind of looking at those and seeing what he did. And at first, when I first got it, I was like, these ads are dog shit. I don't understand how they're making money. So I attempted to make better ads. What I realized is better ads, in Sanders' perspective, are not better ads, right? I made 10 ads and they all flopped. And so I was like, okay, I got to try something different. I can't do the same thing again. It's just not working, at least in this format, in this way, it's not working well. So I was like, I'm going to go back to exactly what my mentor has. I'm going to create different versions of the same thing, and then just put those out there. I'm not going to try and make it fancy in any way. I'm not going to try and make it super nice. I'm just going to do like a decent voiceover with a couple little text pieces and like 1 or 2 pieces of footage in a given ad, and then just put that out there. And so I did silent versions of it with just text, and then I did ones with that decent AI voiceover from 11 Labs that I told you about last week. Those I haven't started running yet. I'm thinking I'm going to start running them tonight.
Yeah.
So I have them prepped. He said that they were good. So at least to run and try.
Right.
So I'm going to try those out. And it's just like a very simplified version of what I was doing, but like not even a more refined version of what he's doing, because I'm not even trying to go for that. It's just like another version of what he did and what seems to be working pretty well, right? In the background, I'm also working through a very large course that he provided to me on how to scale and how to run ads and how to get customized user-generated content, UGC content.
What's customized user-generated content?
So that's like when you see ads and it's like let's say a mom and they're like, life hacks for my morning routine, or like some girl with a hair dryer and she's like, 5 things I love about this blah 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 hair dryer, and
like customer referral.
Yeah. So it, like, when you're watching it, it feels like it's just someone with a TikTok account that like wants to tell you about their product, but in reality it's an ad.
Got it.
Right? That's the kind of like user-generated content that does really well, because when people are watching, they're like, oh, this person is just sharing. Right. But then there's a link to shop down below, and people click on it out of curiosity, and they realize, oh, wait, this is actually kind of cool and professional, blah, blah, and then they get it, right? So that kind of content usually does really well. That's what I'm working towards right now. I'm working through those courses, taking good notes, doing a lot of product research, and going through that process. And my timeline is about Wednesday or Thursday of this week, I would have completed at least the first section of that material to where I can go and acquire that user-generated content. Because the latter portion of that course is about how to scale, how to analyze data, how to, blah, blah, insert something after ads, right?
How do you get a customer to film one of those videos for you? Do you offer percentage?
So I haven't gone to that point yet. I'm on Section 3. Section 5 goes over the user-generated content. Section 3 is very long. It's all about research. It's 39 modules.
Got it.
So I'm at module like 33 right now. So I'm almost done. I should be done today. But so from what I've gathered, at least, there's essentially a company out there that has like your pick of who you want to review and film your product. So it could be anywhere from like some farmer guy who's reviewing some tool to some mom who's reviewing some kid's product.
That's an interesting business.
Some 20-year-old girl who's like got this like fashion thing going, whatever, right? Like you can kind of pick, right?
It's an advertisement broker that connects like celebrity or not celebrity, like TikTok real people and businesses.
Yes, exactly. But it feels all real, and it's really interesting.
Well, so Lego does this with it's called the Lego Ambassador Network, and essentially they send you a free set because they know you have a YouTube channel where you review Lego, and then you glaze the product on your YouTube video. And if you don't, then they just stop sending you sets. So like one of my favorite YouTubers, he was making videos with them, but he was telling his honest opinion. He would be like, this part sucks, this part's cool, but this part sucks. Overall, it's not worth the money. And Lego just stopped sending him the sets.
Oh shit.
Yeah, but it's essentially that. It's like a real user review of it, but
Yeah.
maybe you get kickback. I mean, he was doing it because he got free Legos, but in this case, maybe sending a free product isn't worth the review. So maybe it has to be a product plus money. I don't know.
No, it's just
to
you
hear-
definitely pay them for it for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, I'm interested to hear about it.
Yeah. So I'm interested to go through that process for sure. I'm really interested to see how much it costs because my money is very, very tight right now.
Right.
And so I've just been kind of passively brainstorming, like if I can't afford to have someone make it for me, what can I do to get some user generated content? So first thing I did was I ordered the product myself for the door. It's not going to make sense if I display my face on it and do it because I don't look like a
Have one of the moms we know do it.
but right, exactly. Ask around, see if a mom can kind of review it and do it. Even if they don't have a kid or they don't want their kid included in it, just having a mom for my given product kind of review it would be
Right.
helpful for sure.
Right.
I can at least do some decent studio style content
Mhm.
with it, right? Not like super duper studio stuff, but I can make a
Nice
setup.
photos, right?
Nice photos, I got some Canva skills I can work with to kind of make
Audio recording.
nice audio recording, right? So I can do some stuff like that. So I ordered the product to kind of help myself out on that end in case I can't afford, $2 or $3 grand up front to have this thing done. I have no idea how much it costs. I could be talking about that ass. It could be fucking $50. I don't know.
Right. It could also be a percentage of your sales over the next month or something like that.
It could be. I have no idea.
Well, if you order the product and then talk to a mom from the kava bar and make a deal with her, you can make it whatever deal you want.
Right.
And you can make it percentage based where you're like, hey, I'm estimating it'll make us X amount of money and you get a cut of that. And then if it doesn't hit that target or it exceeds that target, and it's like a learning experience. But
Yeah.
either way, you get paid at a flat rate. You could get fucked. I don't know. I don't know how much money the CG.
I don't know. I'm just gonna go through the courses and see kind of what the spiel is. The guy who does the course, he used to do drop shipping, and he still does some drop shipping, but now he runs an ad agency and helps people scale ads. So he works with a lot of bigger companies and helping them scale and stuff like that. So he has a good track record of like going through this process and stuff like that. So I trust his input. So
That's cool.
what I've kind of learned this past week too is like just kind of dumb it down and follow the process.
Mhm.
Like I have a process. Don't overthink it. Like don't try to fucking reinvent the wheel.
Right.
Just use the wheel. You know what I mean? That's kind of what I learned this week, which is a very valuable lesson, I think.
Like, don't make the ads overly complicated.
Yeah, like that. Or
Huh.
like don't try to reinvent the ad system that's already working. Or don't try and reinvent a website that's already converting well.
Right.
Or don't try to, reinvent how you analyze ads when you have a system down that works and that's simple enough. Like at least right now, like I think that if I put myself in a frame of mind of like just learn, don't reinvent, just iterate what you have and just go from there, I think that at least puts me on a trajectory that I can go down rather than trying to grab each little side mission along my way.
It's Alex Hormozi's replicate then iterate.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I think that that's a lesson that, I've heard before, but really set in this week. I think spending your own money on things helps it set in a little bit quicker. So,
Yeah.
that definitely helped it set in to an extent. But also I negotiated with my supplier this week, got my costs down about, I would say 10% on the supplier side, which is good.
That helps your ROAS.
It does. It does help my ROAS. And then I found a site doing some research that was an exact replica of my site. All the exact same site content, same pages, same price points. They stole the custom photos I used in Canva. They stole the custom GIFs that I have in my website. They stole all the info. It's exactly the same, just a different domain and different name.
Right.
And then they took every single ad that I made, all 10, and they posted them on their own ad accounts, used everything exactly the same. So I'm kind of taking it as a compliment, but addressing it like a threat, essentially.
So do you think that, I mean, you got your photos, it's stock photos and images, right? It's like stock videos.
Some of them I customize in Canva.
Got it. So the customized ones, that's a rip, right?
Yeah.
In the GIFs and stuff,
Yeah.
because you created those.
Correct.
Using the actual photos isn't a big deal, but the changes that you made to the photos is
using
in
my
the entire
scripts
store.
are a rip. Using the actual like text in the store is a rip, right? All that stuff.
Right.
But I did message my mentor about it, and he was like, "Don't worry, I've dealt with this before. It doesn't happen super frequently, but it can happen." He's actually doing it with it on his personal product right now, where someone did the same thing.
He has the same product and you're ripping each other.
No, he has a different product he's working. But yeah, so they ripped all of my material on the 14th, and I caught it today on the 16th. So
quick.
pretty quick.
Who do you report that to?
So he sent me a bunch of different stuff about the process to go through, essentially flagging their Facebook account, reporting them, flagging their Shopify store. They can get their ads, they can get their store spend cut and all this other stuff, blah, blah, blah. So you can kind of create some roadblocks in the way and report along the way. I don't know the exact details. I found this like an hour ago. So I don't have, the exact details about how to process and go through it. Probably next week I'll have a good idea of
how to deal with that.
How to deal with it and what happens. Hopefully, the interesting thing though too is that, I can do these things, but they can also do it back to me. Right. So there's kind of like a push and pull. Like I can report them, but they can also report me.
So in the future, can you put a watermark with your store name on the video?
I asked about that, and he was like, because technically the footage that you're pulling is from like the online, like from TikTok or Facebook and Instagram, you can't like really watermark it because it's not really your footage, although it is stuff that you created. Like it's not really your footage. When I get into UGC content that I pay for, that's when we're going to start getting into the watermarking and how to protect it at the base level. And so, just right now, it's kind of like a wait for the attack and then defend versus when I actually pay for customized content, it'll be put up a wall first and then, you know what I mean?
Right.
So just kind of going through. What I am doing, though, passively to address this is that I don't know if I'll do this for the ads I'm going to run tonight, but what I'm going to do in the future is in my voiceover from 11 Labs, I'm going to actually have it say like the exact name of my product and store in the voiceover, and I'm going to have music overlaid under it so that if they try to cut that part out of the ad, it sounds really weird because there's music overlaid under it that is all chopped up now. And, the voice isn't quite correct.
Seems like
a
hack job.
It seems like a hack job. And I just want to do little stuff like that to make it just slightly tougher.
Yeah.
But that's something I'm working on as well, just passively, kind of under the radar to try and handle some of that stuff. But I'm going to go through that reporting process and trying to get them flagged because, technically speaking, my store started and was formed January 11th. And theirs was formed, and you can see this in Facebook transparency. Theirs was formed their page was formed on the 13th, and they started running ads on the 14th of February.
Right. So it's
over a month later, of me running and working it.
Is the January 11th the date that you built the store?
No, that's what he built it. I acquired it February 3rd, I believe.
Still before this guy started running.
Yes. Over a week before he.
Right.
Yeah. Because he ripped all of my custom ads, which I made after I acquired it too. Right.
I think there's so many benefits to shooting your own ads, especially with stuff like this. Like if you're trying to film, like I've noticed this with Everett's Tiave ads, filming something for a custom product that's supposed to be like a large brand is really difficult, but you're not selling a brand right now, you're selling a product. And that's way easier to sell because it's not just like, have a sip of this drink and tell me what you think. It's like, I'm going to send you a product and you just film it yourself, right?
Yeah.
And tell me how you like it. Or you take it to a studio and then film like whatever B-roll footage you want with it and stuff like that, and then use an AI voice over it. Who cares? Like there's so many different ways that you can make it look exactly the way you want it to look. And then you can watermark that and no one can take it. There's just so many benefits to getting one yourself and doing it yourself.
Yeah. So that should be here late February, early March at the latest.
Cool.
So I'm looking forward to that, getting some custom photos with it.
Right.
Getting some custom B-roll footage of it working and stuff like that.
We know so many moms from the Cabo bars. I'm sure someone would be willing to film with you.
Yeah.
For sure. And
So,
probably for pretty cheap too, honestly.
Yeah.
Like we're friends.
I'm sure if I was like, I'll give you $100 or $200, like for sure.
Yeah.
I
mean, some of them might even be willing to let
lower
you
than that.
Yeah.
So just working through that. That's about all of my business update. All of it, I say, but it was long-winded.
Do you have any life update?
I have no life update. I've worked 8 to 10 hours a week at NASA this entire week, and I've worked 6 days, and I'm working the holiday tomorrow too. So it was funny. I have been I've been to Pauhana twice in the last 7 days.
Mhm.
I went Friday and Saturday for about 30 to 45 minutes each day. I didn't go like during the regular Monday through Thursday at all.
Yeah.
And I have gone to work and then straight from work to home. And then I work at home until 1 in the morning. And then I go to bed and I wake up at 6 or 6:30 to go to work. And I've done that every day for weeks now, pretty much. Except the Pauhana time I've dialed back incrementally week by week by week. But I'm just in a grind phase right now, trying to get through as much content as I can and learn as much as I can. And because also the thing with drop shipping too is like you just got to move fast, right? And so you gotta pick up pace and get through this stuff and try to really go for it. So I'm just putting everything I can into it.
When people ask me where you've been, I say that you have a really bad UTI and you have to get the top third of your dick removed. So
You get weird looks. That's what that is. Got it. Wonderful. Thank you. But that is my business update and no life update.
okay, glad to hear it.
What do you have for us this week?
Have you heard? Has anyone told you how I did on my real estate state exam?
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna start from. I'm just gonna do like a broad overview of everything to build up to the state exam because this is a fucking story. Okay, so last week we left off. I think I was getting close to or had just finished doing the course. So for real estate, you have to take a 60-hour course and then take a course exam. And if you pass the course exam with a 70%, then you get a certificate. You then take that certificate to the state and take that test in which you need a 75%. And then you're a licensed real estate agent. So last week I had finished the course. I had taken my first practice exam and gotten a 69%. So 1 point off of what I will actually need to pass. So I pushed my state exam, which I had already scheduled like another week out. And I took another practice exam and this time I got a 97%, but it's the same exam. So like I've been studying these questions for 4 days and then I went back and took it again. Of course, I'm going to recognize all the questions. So I am going into this final course exam not really certain what to expect because I can crank out a 97 because I'm familiar with all the questions, but these will for sure be different, right? You only have one attempt to pass. And if you don't pass, you have to wait 30 days to take it again, which fucks all my plans. And then if you don't pass it a second time, then you have to take the course again, which is like $500 or wait a year. So all bad if I don't pass the first time, right? So I took that exam on Tuesday and that's the one that I texted you. I got a 99%.
Yeah.
So fucking crush the course exam.
Cool.
The state exam is different. Very different. So in the course, it tells you how long you've spent in each unit. So I tallied up my time when I was getting ready to go do the state exam. In the 60-hour course that I took, I actually spent 116 hours and 18 minutes studying. So I'm like, right now I'm like 120 hours into real estate roughly.
Okay.
Which in the grand scheme of things, 120 hours doesn't seem like a whole lot. But it's over double what the course exam said that I would need, right? So the state exam, Grace told me, is way different. The course teaches you one thing, and then the state gives you extra shit that wasn't in the course exam or like inferencing things, more legislative legal shit that you're not familiar with from the course because the course tries to give you an overview of everything. And then the state exam is like, do you know Florida state legislature? And so Tyler was telling me ahead of time, he was like, yeah, what's tough about this exam is that it says like the questions will ask you which is the best answer. And 3 of them are correct and 1 of them is the best. And I'm like, fuck, because I'm bad at those. Because when I learned how to take the SAT and I did my practice tests, I didn't actually learn how to do the math questions or how to do the reading or anything. I learned how to whittle down the multiple choice answers from 4 into 2 and then pick the most likely one from there. So if there's 1 right answer, that's not hard to do. But if there's technically 3 right answers and 1 of them is the best, I don't know. So I was kind of sweating. There's no study material or anything like that. There are other independent sites that like if you pay a stupid fee, then they'll help you prepare for the state exam. But I just paid $500 for a course. So like, I'm just going to figure it out. So like I said in last week's podcast, I used ChatGPT to make practice, like 10 question practice exams. And then all day on my phone, I would take breaks from work at Northrop. I would go out to check my phone and I'd rip through a practice exam. And I'd have it explain to me the ones that I got wrong or the ones that I got right. like, let's say I knew the right answer, but I wasn't familiar with 2 of the other options. I was like, tell me what those other 2 options are. Because if I'm presented with something similar in the exam, I'm not comfortable with it, I want to know what the other options are.
Right.
So that's Tuesday night that I passed the course exam, and my state exam is Thursday afternoon. So I haven't done any prep for the state exam yet. So I gave myself a day and a half to study for the state exam on top of the course exam. In hindsight, not the smartest thing. The Florida State real estate exam, you need a 75% to pass, which is the highest of all the states right now. Other states like Texas require a 61% on average. Florida's exam has a 39% overall pass rate. So that's not just the first time you take it, but that's all aggregated together, 39% pass rate. It's supposed to be like one of the hardest in the country.
No kidding.
So I was at the bar studying before this exam, and Tyler was like, "Are you nervous?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "Everyone's gonna be watching you." And I was like, "The fuck are you talking about?" He's like, "They're all gonna gather around and watch you take the exam. Are you nervous?" And I was like, "Tyler, some people just want to watch history happen, and I'm okay with that." And he was like, "Oh, okay." So he went and sat down. So I go to the exam center, which is between a Chinese restaurant and a pharmacy, and it's down an alleyway in the back. So I'm fucking tucked way in the middle of like the heart of Melbourne. And I walk in, and there's 2 ladies in a front office, and then there's a big glass wall with like a test center back there with like 6 computers. There's not many. And I'm like, "Hi, like I have my certificate here to prove that I passed my course." And they're like, "It has to be in paper." And I was like, "Oh, well, I only have a digital copy." And they're like, "It has to be in paper. It says it in the email." I said, "It doesn't say it in the email." So I pulled it up and I showed them, and they were like, "Well, it has to be in paper. You should have known." And I was like, "What the fuck? Okay, fine. I see a printer behind you. Can I just email this to you for you guys to print it?" And they were like, "No, we can't do that." And I was like, "Okay, well, I have 20 minutes before my exam starts and I can't go home." And so they were like, "Go to the pharmacy down the hall next to the Chinese restaurant and have them print it. If you ask them nicely, they'll do it for you." I was like, "Okay." So I went and got
What about asking those 2 cunts nicely and they didn't fucking do it?
exactly.
Right.
So I get it printed and I come back, and I brought with me my scientific calculator from engineering and a straight edge and a piece of paper in case they didn't have any, the pencil that I like. I brought a flannel in case it was cold in there. I brought a protein bar. I brought my tea and I brought my water. Like I had my shit together. I'm wearing my comfy shoes. Like I have the materials that I need with me to succeed, right? And they're like, "Okay, this certificate looks good. Give us your ID." I brought my passport as a second form of identification, so that all clears. It's all good. They're like, "Read these rules." And I'm like, "Oh, in these rules, it says that you can't bring like an electronic device, but I have my calculator. Is that okay?" And they were like, "Yep, just let me see it." And I was like, "Okay." So I hand it to her, and she was like, "This one has letters on it, so we can't let you in with it." And I was like, "It's a calculator, dog, really?" And she was like, "It could have memory." And I was like, "I'll open it up for you and show you. There's nothing in there." And they're like, "No, we can't let it in. Take mine." And I'm like, "Fuck, it's a little 4-function calculator." And I'm like, "God damn it." And I go, "Okay, well, can I bring my pencil and my straight edge in there?" And they were like, "Nope." And I was like, "I can't bring a fucking pencil?" And they were like, "Uh-uh." And I was like, "Well, then how the fuck am I supposed to write these problems out?" And they give me a single sheet that's laminated with a dry erase marker. And they were like, "Here, take this and your 4-function calculator." 10% of this exam is math questions, by the way, which I feel most prepared for the math ones because I understand that's my only strong suit in this exam. And now they're taking away all my abilities to actually do it. The dry erase marker, you have to go like this
Yeah.
to get it to work every time it touches the ink. So if you write the number 13, scritch, 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 number 1, scritch, 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 number 3. So I'm like, "Fuck, dude." And I'm like, "Okay." So I turn around and the lady's like, "All right, here's a key to your locker." And I'm like, "Locker? What the fuck?" And she was like, "Yeah, you have to put all of your stuff in here." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, I just have my phone and my Whoop. They don't want me to take the electronics in." So I'm like, "Here you go." And she was like, "No, you have to leave everything." And I was like, "Okay, like my calculator case?" And she was like, "Yep, your calculator case, your pen, your pencil, like we talked about. You have to leave your water bottles out here and your flannel." And I'm like, "Okay, what the fuck? Like how, like if I get thirsty, what do I do?" And she's like, "You have to raise your hand and we'll walk over and get you and we'll bring you outside the room and then you can have a drink and go back and sit down." And I was like, "This is fucking ridiculous." So I leave everything out there. I'm like, "Can I bring my flannel in?" And they were like, "Only if you wear it." And I was like, "What if, like, can I just drape it over the back of the chair?" And they were like, "If you want to take it off, you have to come back out and put it in the locker." And I'm like, "Dude, are you kidding me?" So I feel like I'm fucking stripped naked and made to squat and cough before getting sent into this fucking room. So they sit me down and she's like, "Don't skip the tutorial. The tutorial is important." And I'm like, "Okay." And I fucking shit you not. I clicked start and it has a display graphic of a computer mouse. And it's like, to make a selection, click the left clicker on the mouse, left click to indicate that you understand. And I'm like, oh my God. So the tutorial is like 15 minutes of teaching you how to use a fucking computer. And then I get into the actual exam. So I'm fucking steaming. It's hot in this room. There's 10 other people coughing and picking their nose, taking the test. And I have to raise my hand if I want to go take a piss or have a drink of water. It's 100 questions. And the very first question has it's a question about some fucking legislature that I'm not familiar with. And like 3 questions that could be right. And another one that could also be right. I have no way of knowing. So this is like pretty much my worst case scenario, right? So I go through the course and I'm checking the flags as I go through on the ones that I want to go back and review. If I'm not 100% certain, I check the flag, right? So I get all the way through the course, and then I go to review. I have 39 questions flagged, which is my racing number, which is funny, but not a great look. So I go back through the flagged ones and I whittle it down to, okay, I'm pretty certain, so I'm going to uncheck this one, to, okay, it's definitely one of these two. And I'm like, I feel like it's one of these. So I uncheck that one. And at the end, the only ones that I had checked were the ones that I was like, I have no earthly clue, and I'm making a minorly educated guess. And there were 8 that were checked off.
Okay.
And so then I'm like, okay, they give you 3 hours to take the test. Now there's 40 minutes left on the clock. So I've used a lot of time. And I think to myself, okay, I should go to the top and review literally every question to make sure that I didn't miss anything or I don't feel uncomfortable about anything, but I could probably submit now. And then I think to myself, I hate this experience so fucking much. If I submit now and I don't pass, I'll fucking hate myself that I'll have to go study for another week and then come back and sit through this 3 hours again. So I'm just going to fucking like nose to the grindstone, go through every question again. So I did, and I submitted with like 20 minutes left on the clock. So I leave the room and the lady hands me my papers face down and she goes, okay, here's your test score and here's the key to your locker. You can get your stuff and you're good to go. And I was like, all right, cool. No indication on how I did. Thanks. So I don't check the paper at first. I'm like, okay. So I like fucking set it down and I get the shit out of my locker. And like, of course it's all in disarray because I didn't expect to have to put it in the locker. So like I'm fucking kneeling on the ground and I'm putting my shit together. And the lady goes, has anyone ever told you that you're a Wrigley test taker? And I was like,
The
what?
fuck is Wrigley?
I was like, Wrigley means like a worm wriggles around. Like it moves a lot, right?
Oh.
And I was like, because when I was taking the test, I would go like this, and then I would go like this, and I would like fucking like I would stretch and I would like crack my back and like move around because I move a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so I was like, yeah, when I was in high school, my mom wanted me to get tested for an attention deficit disorder so that I get medicated and get extra time on the SAT, but I never did it because I don't want meds. And she was like, yeah, a lot of times people with attention deficit disorder struggle to maintain like a steady job, like a lawyer, doctor, or engineer. So I think that
business, bitch.
I think that when you eventually start real estate, you'll do really well there. And so I'm tying my shoe and I go, it's so funny you mentioned that because I'm an engineer right now. And she was like, how? What? Where do you work? And I was like, I work at Northrop Grumman. And she was like, my husband works at Northrop Grumman. Do you work on the B-21? And I was like, I can't say, but I bet I know your husband. And so she told me his name and I didn't recognize it. But I was like, yeah, I'm leaving engineering because it's not stimulating enough for me. There's not enough going on. And she was like, huh, okay, well, have a good career. And I left. But like I thought it was so funny that she tried to shit talk me. So I text Grace because she's heading home from work and I'm heading home too. And so she's like, hey, I'm heading home. And I'm like, me too. So I get home and I get home and she's like freaking out. She's like, how did you do? And so I start to tell her this story and she was like, please just let me know. Please just let me know. Because I know you're going to be fucking insufferable for the next like 2 weeks if you didn't pass. And I'm kind of freaking out right now. And so I said, how do you think I did? And later on, Tyler called me and I said the same thing. I said, how do you think I did? And he was like, just tell me. And I was like, meet me at the bar tonight and I'll tell you. He was like, oh man. So I made Tyler to come out to the bar to ask me how I did. Same thing with Joel. And I'll ask you the same thing. How do you think I did?
What was the passing mark?
75%. It did not tell me what my percentage score was. It just said fail or pass.
Oh, so you don't even know what your percentage score?
I don't know what my percentage.
I think you passed.
I did pass.
Yeah. No, if I had to get a percentage, I would have said 85 to 87-ish.
Of the 8 questions that I was like, kind of like eyeballing, the final 8 that I wasn't sure about, I remembered all of them because I was like, if I have to take this again, I'm going to study the shit out of these questions. And I went through all of them with Grace, and she confirmed that I got all of them right.
Yeah.
So for all I know, it could have been 100 or 78. I have no idea, but
Yeah.
I feel pretty confident about it.
No, I would have been very surprised if you'd failed, honestly. I think you're a
thought
very
so.
smart guy, and I think that you study well, and I think you prepared a lot. I didn't.
I'm such a
Yeah.
bad test taker. I'm a terrible test.
Yeah, but I think preparation, preparation's the only cure for that, and I think you did a lot of it. So
Thanks, man.
Here.
Yeah, I was not anticipating having like everything stripped away from me. And so when I got in there and I was really uncomfortable, I was like, dude, I just have to lock in. But I said I was going to lock in when I started taking the course exam 3 days earlier. And for those 3 days, I was very quiet. And so I went to the bar that night, hung out. Joel saw me the next day and we were talking. And he didn't ask me about it until someone like asked me like, oh, how'd it go? And Joel was like, yeah, how did it go? And I was like, how do you think I did? And he was like, I don't know, man. I thought you would have said something last night or been excited if you passed. So like, I'm afraid you didn't do well. And I was like, you got no faith in me, man. I told you I locked in. When I lock in, I don't fucking fool around. So yeah, no, I got my license in the
Graduation.
mail yesterday, so I'm now licensed. So now
Awesome.
the next step is to assemble a list of brokerages that I want to interview and a list of questions that I want to ask them. So I went through all the material that Grace got from Remax when she signed up with them and got familiar with like what the commission split is. You have to pay them an annual fee, but you can break it up monthly and that impacts your commission split different ways. So like, one-time fee of like 12,000 or a monthly payment of like 1,300, and then it adds up to like 14K total. So now I'm assembling my list of questions, and then I'm going to start scheduling interviews. I think I'll probably narrow it down to my top 5 brokerages and then interview 3 or 5 of them, depending. I'll probably start scheduling those in early this week, and then maybe I'll have one by next podcast. I'm not sure. I want to kind of figure out what I want to ask so that I don't waste anybody's time in the year or have to get a second one. So that's
Cool, man. Both making big moves in our respective fields.
Yeah,
Very cool. Very awesome.
I'm happy. I'm glad.
Yeah.
I'm glad to have it done.
That's fucking sick, man.
I fucking hate studying so much, and I'm such a bad test taker. And when I got there, I was like,
Bro,
this is my flu game.
what's gotten me through like this last few weeks, it's that Alex Ramosi quote that's like, the work starts when the motivation ends.
Yeah.
Dude, fucking sitting there at fucking 10:30, 11 p.m. and you got 2 hours until you can go to bed because you got to be up until the ad account ends to make your proper changes if you need to scale up or down. And you got to sit there and watch that fucking course and do that fucking research, do all those stupid ads. Bro, I'm like, it's like sometimes I'll just sit there for 5 minutes and I'm like, am I going to be a bitch and waste the next 2 hours? Or am I going to be fucking productive? Even if I'm not 100% my full capacity on a good night's rest productive. Like, am I just going to do something at least? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so just like pushing through that. And I'm sure you've done much of the same going through that fucking course because it sounds grueling.
I mean, the course sucked because it's like you get through, like every time you open a new unit, it's like, okay, it's 12 pages. And you're like, fuck, because each page is long. And you
It's
get
the same thing for me. I have 14 different folders that he sent me.
Yeah.
And every time I open a folder, it's like 30 new modules. I'm like, fuck, dude.
But at least your modules are like, I would hope that they're engaging a little bit because it's like
They're about 10 minutes a piece. And then each one has an action item though. And each action item takes anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour.
Got it.
So, it's a lot of fucking.
Yeah. The action items for us are like quizzes at the end of each module, but you can rip a quiz out in like 10 minutes. So
That's nice.
But this wasn't like, I feel more excited to be getting into the new phase of like learning how to problem solve because the studying that we did was like, what is chapter 61J2 of the Florida State statutes? Now I know it's the rules and regulations that the Florida Real Estate Commission, has to follow.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to learn that. And when I open a fucking 12-unit module with 3 pages about I want to fucking die.
Yeah.
So like, as I was getting through that, it sucked. I hit my lowest bank balance since graduating in.
Oh, me too. My bank is fucking suffering.
Before my paycheck hit on Thursday, my checking account had $26 and my savings account had $11. So I was at.
That is lower than I was.
I was at $38 the second before my paycheck hit. And so I've been going to the bar less too. So now I'm sitting at home with like just fucking reading about the Florida Real Estate
club,
Commission.
baby.
Dude, I fucking
it's terrible.
It sucked ass. I'm so excited to be getting that's the benefit to real estate for me at least is that Like I can go out in the field and make phone calls and like be engaged with physical people.
Yeah.
The downside is Tyler was talking about going to the gym the other day. And I brought that up with Grace, and Grace was like, oh, her mentor in real estate. She was like, oh, most of my clients come from the gym. Cause like I'll start talking to people at the gym and then I help them buy a house. And I was like, dude, the gym is the last place I want people to talk to me. Like the gym is my safe haven. I don't want to talk to anybody at the gym.
Yeah.
Come talk to me elsewhere, but like not while I'm working out.
Yeah.
So that's going to be an unanticipated downside, I think, is the amount of socialization that I'll have to do.
On the topic of money, last week I want to record this for future me, but last week I was like really sweating a lot of like the money movement because it was like a lot of bills in a lot of different places,
A lot of
linked to a lot of different accounts.
Yeah.
And like this week I've like started to learn how to just kind of like ride and chill. Like if you got a losing day, like it's all good. It's like I have a much clearer perspective. It's like, yes, I owe $1,000 here and 500 here, and I'm waiting for this payment from Shopify, and I gotta coordinate that, but it's just gonna be fine. Like you're gonna be cool, right? And it's like, I have a credit card bill I need to do, and rent and other bills, but it's just like I know it's flowing, I know it's coming. I have the paycheck coming, which is a benefit right now for sure.
Right.
And it's just kind of like riding that line, and it's like I think it's like the realization of like when you're going through it. You feel like every single time you're in a little bit of a money pinch, the IRS is going to come on your door and they're going to put you in handcuffs and lock you up in a box, right? Like that's how it feels sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, this is the end of everything, right? But it's like now it's like I can still wake up tomorrow and work. My credit card bill may exceed my bank account balance by 2 or 3-fold, but I can still get up and work tomorrow and go for a better future. And it's like, I'm going to look back on this day 5 years from now and be like, remember when I was sweating my credit card bill that had an APR of like 20% per month or whatever? And I was like, I'll never pay this. Like, I'll look back on those days and I'll be like, what a fool I was, because there was so much ahead of me that I didn't know.
Dude, I was talking
and it's like, it's fine. Like, it's going to be okay. Like, the people I would worry about are the people with massive credit card. And my credit card bill is not even bad. I think it's like $1,500 right now. Like, it's not even that bad. But it's like the people that I sweat for credit card bills are the people who just like spend and never have the intent of working to pay it back, right? Like I have something I'm working to. I'm a little bit of a low spot financially, but that's because I'm putting a lot of time, energy, and effort and money into building up something greater. And I just got to ride that low point for a little bit until I got the other money. And then all this other stuff, and even if it's, got some interest fees on it here and there or whatever, like it's gonna clear up. I just got to keep working through it.
Right. Well, and when you don't have a lot of money, the S part of ROAS is what you sweat about, right? Because it's like, oh, well, I'm spending what little I have to try to get a return, but like the S, it means a lot because you don't have a lot.
Spend.
So like then once you start
very
to see,
true.
After you do the first couple spends and then you start to see some of the return, you go, okay, well, at least I can like manage this pace, and then if I can even get like a little bit of a foothold, then I can start like, the R increases and then maybe the S increases. Yeah, and they grow together, right?
Yeah.
But I was talking to one of Justin's coworkers the other week because he was talking about how many credit cards he has. Because apparently credit companies want to see you have upwards of 30 credit cards. And I was like, what the fuck? And I think what I determined the bottom line is, they just want to see a high credit limit. It doesn't have to be a bunch of cards. Yeah. But the fastest way to get to a high credit limit isn't to keep pushing one card. It's to get a bunch of them.
I got my business credit card in finally this week too. Another point with for 0% for 12 months.
Yes. So Justin's coworker, he was like, what I do is I have a 0% credit card that I spend on fun stuff. And then it's an 18-month credit card. After 12 months, I apply for a different credit card company's 0% 1-year APR credit card. And then I just transfer all the fees over to that one. And then I just lock up the first one. Now that it's at some accruing APR, I lock it up so I don't spend on it anymore. But that adds to my credit history being there because I still have a line open. And it's credit that I'm not using. So he's at like 28 cards and has like an 840 credit score or something like that. Greg has an Amex card with, I don't know if he wants me to say what the limit is, but he has like an 820 credit score. Yeah. It's one card, but it's a high limit. Right?
Yeah.
But I was like, dude, I didn't think that you could pull out multiple 0% APR cards. And he was like, I've been doing it for 15 years. Because every company is going to have a 0% APR credit card and they're always coming out with new ones. So like the Chase Sapphire.
Yeah, I got the Ink for business.
Right. You Chase Ink 0% APR. Well, then after that, you can get the Chase Sapphire 0% APR and that works too and whatever. For the business is different. But like personal stuff.
Yes, exactly.
And I was like, man, that's so interesting. Because my plan with the bar was once we have to quit our jobs to do the bar, I'll apply for a 0% APR credit card, and that'll get me to our first couple.
Yeah, right.
And I haven't done it yet, but it's on my list of things to do before I
I did
quit
it.
my job. You did do it?
Yeah,
Well, that's right.
Well,
right.
for the business, yeah.
Mhm.
I didn't do it for the personal.
I
I can
want
for
to.
sure. Yeah,
I think I want to.
yeah.
It's
Most
on
of
my
my
list of
spend is coming from business right now. What I really need to do, dude, my fucking IRS, do not audit me right now. My fucking business versus personal expenses are so fucked up right now in terms of like where I put what. I got to go through Quicken and like fucking sort that shit out at some point because it's just fucked right now. Like, I have multiple different accounts, different credit cards on different things, money going to different people for different reasons.
Right.
Also, fuck, please don't audit me this year. Like, just fucking.
Dude, what I'm worried that Trump's going to fire so many people at the IRS and I'm not going to get my tax refund.
Bro, I
That's
know
what I'm sweating because I just need that fucking tax refund. That's like $5,000 coming my way. That I'm like, I'm checking the days. I did it January 31st. It's February 16th, and like they have 21 days to get me my refund back. I haven't gotten it yet, and I'm fucking sweating.
They got Doge at NASA right now going for that efficiency shit. I'm like, see you guys, I got a business to build. I ain't fucking around for this shit.
Dude, I'm all for no income tax on 2025 income, but please give me my 2024 refund because dog, I need it.
Yeah, the no income tax shit would be wild. That'd be awesome.
I'd be so.
I might keep my 9 to 5. No, just kidding. Who am I joking?
Keep on 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Okay. Life update. I'll move off the business.
Oh my god, I forgot we even didn't do
So this is my life update. I only have one thing. Valentine's Day was cool. I had a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I did do something. I went ice skating. It was fun.
At the Iceplex?
Yeah, by your parents' place. Yeah, it was fun.
It's a fun place.
Yeah.
Grace has been going roller skating in Orlando lately, and hasn't invited me yet. But I like ice skating and roller skating.
Ice skating was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I like it because it has a factor of like you could actually seriously injure yourself.
Do you know how ice skating works physically?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
The pressure of the small blade creates a liquid barrier between you and the ice.
Yeah. I've always thought that was really cool.
Yeah. Have you looked at how they cut the skates? It's not like a flat plane on the bottom of that metal piece. It's actually a concave cut.
Yes.
Yeah. So your actual pressure are on the outside edges of that little thing, and that's what it's like. It's really interesting. Yeah.
It's super cool.
Yeah.
Well, then it gives the space for the water to go once it melts.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Ice skates are sick.
They are sick. We went to a nice Italian place in Winter Park that we like, and hung out. And Grace got me a squeezy, one of the forum squeezy things. Dude, do you know how I always ruin gifts? Like the week before. You're familiar with this? Like I'm like, oh, I should buy XYZ. And then everyone's like, don't fucking do that, right? I fucking shit you not. On Valentine's Day, Grace and I were at the gym and I was doing tricep push downs and I was making like fun of some other fat kid with Grace over text because he was like sitting on a machine not doing anything, but also trying to raise up this girl. And I was like, bro, you know, XYZ something. I really think that my forearms are lacking right now because my upper body's looking good. My shoulders are coming in, but I feel like my forearms are lacking. I should buy one of those forearm grip things. And so then I sent like 3 or 4 other messages and she just said, don't you fucking dare. And I was like, what? And she was like, the forearm thing. And then she replied to the other ones and I totally forgot about it. And then that night I opened it up and she got me cologne and the forearm squeezy thing. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And she was like, I thought you were going to go on your phone and order it. And I was so pissed off because like, what are the fucking odds? Like the day off, right?
That is wild.
But my life update is
I'll get Mason a butt plug for his birthday this year. He won't buy that for himself.
I definitely will not.
Just kidding.
So I'm trying to figure out. Grace is close to closing on this property, the $770,000 one, and I'm trying to figure out a way for her customers or clients to write a review for her so that other people, when they Google her, can see this review, right? Because referrals are everything and reviews are everything in real estate. And so she said the most popular way that you do it is you make a Google business profile under your name. So when you Google Sander Sorok comes up as a Google business with reviews. So Tyler does this. Tyler has like 15 reviews and like 4.8 stars, right? And I was like, oh, cool. So we searched Grace's name and then we actually saw that you can see everyone's Google reviews. So I can type in Grace's name and see the reviews that she's written for other businesses. And I was like, oh, that's fun. I wonder what mine is. So I type in my own name and I'm reading that stuff. And then I go, I wonder what comes up when I type my name. So I typed my name in, and the first 5 pages of Google were all legitimate like stuff about me. Eventually you get to the point where it's like white pages, like enter, like pay us, and we'll search for this person and get you their phone number or whatever, right? That didn't happen until like page 15 or something like that.
Oh, wow.
First like 15 pages was actual stuff. And one of the things that I came across was someone had written their master's thesis and cited my court case against FIT as a source.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
so
interesting.
it was the master's thesis for a master's in communication by Taylor Lane at Virginia Polytechnic University. And her thesis was Women's Influence on Culture in Collegiate Esports. And she used our court case to set a precedent for how esports are considered as a part of athletics these days. And I was like, that's so fucking sick. So I sent it to the guys who I did the lawsuit with, and I was like, that's so cool. Yeah. And I had no idea it happened. I think she wrote the paper in 2024.
Wow, cool.
But I thought it was super cool, so I wanted to mention it. I thought it was
Very nice.
okay. So we have an actual podcast topic.
We do.
If you want to get into that,
Yeah.
Okay. So this week's topic is on whether or not social media is a tool or a trap. So social media consumes the screen time of so many people today, and I'm wondering how much of that is wasted time versus actually useful. When faced with the TikTok ban recently, many rationalized their use of the app by saying that they learned lessons from it and they learned about new cool things, and their life progressed more quickly with it than without it. So today I want to talk about whether or not that's true and how much of our time is wasted versus being productive on social media. So our first segment is on whether or not the pros outweigh the cons. So I have a list of pros and a list of cons.
Yeah.
Which would you like to start with?
Why don't you list off some pros? We can bounce off there, or we start with your cons, whatever you want to start with.
Pros is good. The first one, like I mentioned a minute ago, is you have the potential to learn in a constructive manner.
Yeah, I have something really interesting to add on that, but I want you to.
No, go for it.
Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, it is really interesting because I don't know if I even use this as an excuse for looking at social media, but because I don't think I ever like talked about it or mentioned it, but internally in my mind, I think it almost justified some of the time I spent on social media because like every 20 posts, you'll get something that it's like, oh, that's actually really cool and interesting, right?
Right.
And then you'll get a bunch of bullshit and then you get something really cool and interesting. And I think it's a tactic because I've actually heard Joe Rogan talk about this with social media where he's like, what sucks about social media and scrolling is that you get a bunch of useless bullshit, but then you get like one thing that somehow makes you feel like you couldn't have moved on with your day without knowing that one thing.
Yeah.
Right? And so it just like hooks you in on this one thing and it makes all the other bullshit that you're scrolling through almost worth it. But at the end of the day, like a vast majority of what you scroll to, you'll never recall or remember.
Right.
Right.
Even those things that seem important, like you still, like you'll come across it in your save folder.
Yeah, I know I found important shit on social media before, what I thought was important, but I don't know if I can recall any of it right now.
Yeah. There's a couple cool facts that I remember, but honestly, a lot of it is from podcasts because the short form stuff I just don't like.
Yeah,
Like,
the podcast ones are.
So many times, a lot of this is with like Formula One races. I'll see a cool story about an old Formula One race and I'll go, wow, I'll remember that. And then I don't.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think one of the cool factors of it though is stuff like Veritasium, where it's like a whole fucking, like recently I've seen like 3 Veritasium videos because I see their TikTok and I go, wow, that's sick. And then I go watch their YouTube video. And like recently they did one on how far you can zoom into something. So far that you can actually see physical atoms, which was really cool. And then they did another one on super glue and how the reason super glue works is because I think I talked about it on the podcast a few weeks ago. It bonds to like
The
roughness in the surface, yeah, and why it bonds so well in like human skin and how it used to not be medically safe and now it is. And like all that stuff I remember. Like the guy who invented super glue was actually trying to make a flexible material that they could use in canopies for aircraft. And he accidentally discovered this polymer instead. So like that's a cool thing that I got from a TikTok, but I didn't really get it from a TikTok. I found the YouTube video because of the TikTok.
Yeah.
So short form doesn't really teach you a lot, or does it direct you to longer form content? Hormozy does a great job of packing stuff into short form.
Yeah, he does.
He does. But even then, like there's maybe only a handful of things that I got from his short form versus his long form.
Yeah, well, I don't even really watch his short form TikTok anymore. I just watch the podcasts, like the regular ones.
They still pop up for me in my
Yeah.
in my For You page.
Yeah. I haven't been on social media much lately. A lot of my time on social media has been product research, actually,
Right.
and scrolling through different footage and stuff like that. But
So you're super pro social media. Everybody go check out, what's your store's name? It's not Mbrock. That's the leaf.
yes, Sweeko, SWEAKO.com.
Check out Sweeko on your social media. All pro social media on this podcast.
Factual. But yeah, it's I'm sort of pro. I'm pro if you have a reason to be on social media.
Oh, I was just bullshitting.
Yeah.
I mean, like the pros.
Oh yeah.
Like,
no, continue. Yeah.
Rogan makes a good point in your example, which is it's almost like the time you spend on social media is inefficient. If you're there to learn and you're not learning all the time, like if 1 out of every 20 posts is informational, then you have a 1 out of 20 efficiency, which is abysmal. Right. So at that point, like just kind of admit that you're like fucking like you can go to the gym, but if you only work out 1 set while you're there and you talk to your friends,
Yeah, it's like working out once every 20 days.
yeah, it's like, are you really working or are you on vacation? Because
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
another pro that I have is that it fundamentally it connects people. Some people have abused this, but I think factually, it's like it puts you in contact with other people easier.
Yeah.
And I think that's a net positive because it makes more connections for you. It makes it easier to communicate with the people who you've already met.
Remember Ness?
Yeah.
Is that, okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
How did we meet him through social media? I was trying to
I don't
figure
know
out
how
we
we
met
met
him.
You found him and then scheduled the call with
How the
me.
fuck did I find him? I was trying to figure this out, but it was potentially through something like social media.
Well, he was doing Hermosi's like scale your business acquisition.
Yeah, but I didn't know that until I met him. So I don't know how I found him.
I don't know how you found him either.
No clue. No idea.
But that's the thing, is it like it put you in connection
anyway,
with somebody, right?
I got in contact with him probably through some sort of social media. I mean, it has to be, whether it's a direct message or an advertisement I saw or something I found right on some social media platform. And then he connected me with the mentor I currently work with for dropshipping. Right.
He didn't find Kahuna Cravings and reach out to us, did he?
No, because I told him about Kahuna Cravings after
Oh,
we'd already met.
You know what it was? You were applying for something. You had like applied to be in a group of like other business people, like-minded people. It was like kind of the like Hermosi verse of Agitate's like
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
That's what it was. It was like meet like-minded business.
That's what it was. It was a school group that then he commented back on one of my posts and we connected. And then that's how, thank you for, I've been trying to figure that out for literally like a month.
Yeah.
I've been like, how the fuck did I meet this guy?
Yeah.
No, thank you. Yes, that's exactly what it was.
And that group is like stems from social media. So I would argue net positive here, right?
Yep.
Another one is it's a huge source of motivation. So I've had days where I feel like shit and then I scroll on TikTok for 10 minutes and then I feel motivated to go do stuff. And yeah, you could say those 10 minutes are spent watching people get hit by trains or like, you know, showing their ass in the mirror at the gym, but then I go to the gym, right? Whereas otherwise maybe I wouldn't have.
Do you feel motivated by it because you're like, oh man, I've wasted 10 minutes, I got to go do something? Or do you feel motivated by it because it's like, oh, this is cool content, or this is a fancy car, I want to go work towards that?
Usually it's the latter.
Okay.
If I find myself scrolling for like more than 20 minutes, then I go, I gotta fucking stop this because I'm doing it for too long. I'm wasting time. But that usually makes me feel like I gotta go do something, not something in particular. But sometimes I'll watch a Hermosi clip and I'll be like, you know what? I was gonna go do XYZ and now I'm gonna do ABC instead because like I'm amped up now. So it kind of works both ways. But in either case, I think it has the potential to motivate. But those are the big pros that I have listed.
Yeah. I listed almost nothing.
Okay.
I was just super swammed. I printed out something at least to know what topics we're going through.
Make it look like you have
what?
To make it look like you have something written down.
Well, it helped for the at least the dropshipping business updates.
Yeah.
In terms of pros, I like the connect people one for sure. I think that's been a big revolution. I think for me personally, I think it all comes down to how you use it as a user. If you're using it for looking at motivational content, or you're using it for research purposes, or you're using it for, scrolling 2 hours a day, like those are all very different avenues.
Right.
And if you're just using it to scroll for 2 hours a day, you could probably do something better with your time. Right. And so I think that holding yourself accountable, when you're using social media is super important. Super important, because I definitely used to struggle a lot with just like wanting to scroll because it was just addictive.
That's the first thing I have in my cons section is doom
Yeah.
scrolling and how addictive it can be.
Yeah, and I have some tips to solve that too,
Yeah.
because that was one of the things that
Yeah.
are a big con for me. But do you want to go through your cons?
Yeah. Doom scrolling fucking sucks. It's addictive. And like, it's whether it's a pro or a con is entirely dependent on how you use it, like you say.
Yeah,
The problem is no one does it all one way or all the other. And that's what makes it tricky, because it's like one person goes, oh, well, 19 of my 20 posts are informational. And then one of them is an OnlyFans girl. And then someone else goes, oh, well, I have fucking 19 videos of people getting hit by trains and then one Veritasium video. And both of them can rationalize the use of social media because pick your reason, right?
yeah,
But in either case, I feel that if you're scrolling for, I mean, I was talking to Tyler the other day, and he was like, I will sometimes wake up early just to give myself extra time to scroll on my phone before going to work, or stay up late just to have more time to scroll. And so his average screen time is like 3.5 hours a day. And I was like, dude, that's nuts. Like 3.5 hours is crazy a day. And I checked mine because I was like panicky. And like over the past 4 days, it had summed up to like 45 minutes on TikTok. And I was like, okay, thank God.
my screen time's fucked because when I'm in my car and I'm playing like a podcast, I leave my phone unlocked.
Yeah.
And so I'll have like 6 hours of screen time a day, but like
Yeah.
5 or more of that is just Spotify being open because I didn't lock my screen.
Yeah.
But my social media usage is way lower than it used to be.
I put YouTube in the mini player, and then I close my phone so I don't drain the battery, and it counts that too.
Yeah.
But I really, the big problems are Instagram Reels and TikTok. Because like YouTube
Yeah.
and Spotify, I never sit down and watch a fucking YouTube video. Like it's always on while I'm driving or working out or something.
Yeah.
So I don't really count those. So maybe my screen time is like 6 hours, but the traps, like the doom scrolling and stuff, is relatively low for me. I've considered deleting it every once in a while, but it's
I'd
kind of at
actually
the
like to
point-
delete it, but I can't now that I'm in dropshipping stuff. Like I have to have those accounts.
Yeah, I'm at the point now, kind of like where I am with Kratom, where it's like, I mean, I could quit, but I don't really think that it's a problem. So why? Like, I like it, and it's not a deficit for me really. So who cares? Like,
Yeah.
40 minutes a day, those 40 minutes are probably like in a 5-minute block where I can't do something productive anyways. So it's kind of like, you know, decompressing or keeping up with world events. I get a lot of news in TikTok, which is one of the big things that people were rationalizing when TikTok was getting banned. They were like, this is my biggest source of news. Like, if I want to know what's going on in the world, like I scroll through TikTok,
Which is kind of scary.
because it's completely controlled by China. Yeah, it's very scary.
Yeah.
Very
It's like,
scary.
if your main resource is short form content made by people who you don't know on a social media platform that's controlled by China or another entity outside of the US that doesn't have US interest, like that's worrisome.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. And that's one of my other ones here. Oh no, it's not actually listed in this one. It's in the next section, but who cares? Fuck it. The media fuck it. I'll do it in the next section. Okay, the next one is a false sense of productivity. So if you're watching someone work out, you feel productive because you're watching someone work out. It's like Hunter syndrome.
Yeah.
Like watching someone work out makes you feel like you have also worked out, and you aren't actually getting anything done. You're just watching it happen, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes
when my motivation's low, I listen to Andrew Tate shorts of him yelling about lazy people not working. And I'll listen to a few of those and I'm like, I'm being such a fucking lazy bitch right now. So I'll go up and work.
it's a good use of a con in a positive way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
The motivation. Another one is the comparison trap. Social media is not a reflection of your real life. It's like a highlight reel of the best parts of your life, right?
Yeah.
So when you scroll through someone's Instagram, it's like, oh, these are the greatest moments of the last year. It's not their actual daily life, right?
Yeah.
And I feel that people can easily fall into the trap of, oh, well, all these people are hanging out by the pool and on yachts and stuff, and I'm not doing that, so I suck. And it's like, well,
You get a lot of that in dropshipping. A lot of big like dropshipping mentors and people online, like a majority of their feed to attract customers is them on like yachts or planes or in fancy cars and shit like that, because it's like that's the lifestyle they want, even if they can't really afford that stuff, and even if it's all rentals.
yeah,
Like that's the lifestyle they're projecting, and that's what they're trying to give out.
yeah,
Which is like I really value the mentor I'm working with because he's not like that at all.
Yeah.
He's like very, very subtle. Like he doesn't want the reason I don't name him is because he doesn't want people to know his name.
Right.
And he's very discreet and he makes very good money, but he doesn't, he's very hush about it and he kind of just does his own thing and he's a really good guy and has a lot of experience in the field, but it's just really interesting to see the comparison between how he operates and how I've seen a lot of like drop shipping stuff operate and a lot of like at least promotional content in that specific field.
Yeah, Tyler and I were talking about cars because his BMW is getting fixed because the incredulous amount of coolant that it's burning is because of a bad PCV valve.
Right, makes perfect sense.
And so
I left that chat. Oh, not literally, but mentally I did.
He was like, "Oh, I'm so excited because the Jeep doesn't have the same impact as driving around the BMW." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And he was like, "Well, people want to see you, like, when I'm the guy in the office who's driving a BMW and everyone else is driving Camrys, I'm a more successful realtor, regardless of how many sales I've made that year." And I was like, "Did you know factually that's not true?" And he was like, "No, but it's like all about public perception. Because if you pull up to a showing or like an open house or something, and there's a BMW out front versus
Or if
like,
it's smoking out of the tailpipe, that's a little bit better.
it's like a BMW versus like a Camry, like, you look more successful." And I was like, I see. I would rather just have the stack of sales to back me up than like that kind of car. Because I want a Miata and like I could give a fuck what you think about the Miata. And he was like, "You're not going to want a Miata for too long though, because eventually with all the driving that you're doing, you're not going to want a manual." And I was like, "I think you're going to eat those words because I will drive a manual until the day I die."
I think people don't understand that actually the more you're traveling, the easier the manual becomes because the more you're traveling, the more highway it is and the more you're in just one gear. No, it's like it's very like a lot of people like, oh, manual must be hard on the highway, and I'm like, actually, it's like
one gear.
Same.
It's as hard as
an automatic because you just put it in a gear.
Yeah. But he was like, oh fuck, I can't remember the exact point he made, but it was something along the lines of like public perception goes a long way. You're gonna be in a lot of like stop and go traffic going places, so you're not gonna want a manual. You can take phone calls and make text messages if you're driving an automatic because you can steer with your knees. And I was like,
I could do that in a manual.
I was like, "Homie, I don't think you understand the passion that I have for driving. Like, I like a manual because I like to be engaged. And even if I have a bunch of phone calls to make, like, that can wait because I'm not going to take a call while I'm driving anyways.
Yeah.
Like, or I guess a call is fine, but like, I'm not going to text while I drive anyways because I want to be fucking focused on the road. I don't want to get in an accident. But also I want to enjoy the drive. Like, I don't want to fucking ride around." So then I pulled up the Blackwing and I was like, "Here, this is a blend of fancy and manual and whatever. And I could take a phone call with the fucking CarPlay. I don't care. But like, that's a big expense. That's like a ways away. Like, I don't care."
Yeah.
I will admit that if you pull up to an open house and you see the Camaro out front, you'll probably be like, "What the fuck?" But in a nice, clean Miata, that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But that the public perception of comparing yourself to others is similar. Like, have you seen Tyler's bear shoes yet? He's got they're like white Vans with like a teddy bear face on the side of it, and the teddy bear is actually fuzzy. And so we were talking about it the other night, and he was like, "Gotta look at these because they're not going to be out that much longer." And I was like, "What are you talking about? Your shoes?" And he was like, "No, I'm wearing shorts. I never wear shorts." And I was like, "Oh, I thought you were talking about your shoes." And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "These are $400 shoes." And I was like, "Are you kidding me?" He was like, "No." And I was like, "Dog, I mean this in the most respectful way. I thought you got those out of the clearance bag at Goodwill." And he was like, "No, dude, these are expensive. These are designer." And I was like, "Man, designer shit is usually so ugly." I saw Greg wearing a t-shirt with the LV for Louis Vuitton, like crocheted into it. So it's like a tight fitting t-shirt with like fucking fuzzy LV. And I asked him if it was real. And he was like, "Of course it's fucking real. You think I'd wear fake Louis?" And I was like, "I didn't think Louis would make something that ugly or that you'd buy it." So like, the whole like fucking chasing clout thing, I don't understand. I never will. And Tyler was like, "You'll get a hang of it and like you'll start to recognize that it's a tool." And I was like, "I won't. They'll get on my page and get out."
Part of the thing I love about the dropshipping thing is like your face is completely disconnected from your actual business. And so it's like I don't have to worry about like driving a BMW versus a Camry. I just drive what I enjoy because I don't have to worry about people's perception of like how much money I make or what I do with it.
Right.
Which I really enjoy about like that disconnect aspect.
Right. I think that the easiest answer to,
not that I'm making any fucking money to worry about it, but maybe eventually one
when
day.
you get there.
Yeah.
But like when someone's like, "Oh, well, why should I go with you? You drive a Camry," when Tyler drives a BMW and spends his weekends on yachts, I'll go, "Oh, well, I spend my weekends not at the BMW dealership or on yachts. I'm buying your house. Like, I'm working for you." It's an easy answer. And it's just like the whole thing is, it's like with Hormozy, where he's like building an undeniable stack of evidence, right?
Yeah.
So if anyone's like, I drive a nicer car than you, it could be like, okay, well, how many sales did you make last year?
Yeah.
Or like, how hard am I going
The
to?
Hormozy thing, you know that one story he pulled up to one of the conferences and God, what's his wife's name? Christ. Layla, thank you. Oh my God. Yeah, I got some sleep. But he pulled up in Layla's car and it had like a cracked windshield on a broken door handle.
Mhm.
And everyone else was like, I thought you were supposed to be rich. And he was like, you should look at my bank account, right? Like it's like
Yeah.
it's like that kind of thing where it's like the public perception is second to your actual productivity and what you're able to achieve and do.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. And like I'm looking forward to having the stack of evidence to lean on instead of like a nice pair of shoes or a flashy car.
Yeah.
Right. Not that I'm gonna dress like a bum, because I think that at the current state that I'm at, I think my tastes are probably casual, but not like dumpy. Like my fashion style isn't like rags, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's also not a Louis fucking t-shirt. So it's like casual, right? And I'll probably wear more linen when I start selling, because I really love the linen shirts in the heat. Dude, we're about to have, I don't know if you've seen the weather forecast. We're about to have the greatest Florida spring comeback in all of history. Dude, as in Florida, after winter, the first day you have in the 80s, winter's over. It's not going to be in the 70s or 60s ever again. It's going to be hot from here on out. You're done, right?
Yep.
Fucking January 25th, it was fucking like 82 degrees. And I was like, God damn it, winter's over in January. We're fucked. We get into February. It's been in the 70s and 80s. It's been hot as fuck. Some days it's cloudy, but usually it's hot.
It's actually been sort of nice in the evenings though.
The evenings have been nice, but like middle of the day, I'm fucking sweating, right? And so I'm like, fuck. And today I saw on my laptop, I took a photo of it because I was so excited. Look at this. I sent it to Grace. Temps to plummet.
Oh yeah, there we go.
This week, Monday, high of 68. Tuesday and Wednesday are warm. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, highs in the low 60s. I'm so stoked. I'm so excited.
That's wild.
Yeah. I'm so excited. Anyway, okay. So another con of social media is the likes and the clout starts to affect your self-worth. So this is similar to what we just talked about, where if you see someone else getting more likes or more live stream viewers or whatever, then you start to think of yourself as less, right? And now your worth isn't tied to a statistic like how many sales have you made. It's like, oh, well, you know, Greg drives an AMG and I only have a base model BMW or whatever.
Right.
And it starts to fuck with your self-worth. And I'm hoping that the more I sell with Tyler, the more I can drag him my way into, hey, don't care about what other people think, just do a better job. Shrink others into insignificance, you know what I mean? Because if I, who have less than Tyler, don't give a fuck about what Tyler drives, then why should Tyler care what other people think, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I have for pros and cons. Are you ready for segment 2?
Yep.
Okay. Segment 2 is, does social media affect our self-worth and decision-making? So kind of pivoting off of what we were just talking about. To put a bow on the pros and cons topic, I think it's fair to say there are really powerful benefits and really powerful shortfalls in either direction.
Sure.
And this topic on whether or not it affects our self-worth and decision-making can sway either way depending on how it's used. So a big one that I have, first off, you can't talk about social media without talking about the media and how it can skew your perception on any news story.
Very true.
So I recently, while I do my meal prep, I've been watching the new Netflix documentary on the O.J. Simpson trial, and it covers it from like start to finish, both sides, prosecution and defense. It talks to a jury member who voted on him. It talks to the members of the deceased. It talks to members of O.J.'s like people. It talks to like onlookers and stuff, all the detectives and everything involved. And it's crazy because some of the people who would go and sit in the trial room and sit there all day would have an understanding of where the trial's at, and they would go home and see the news covering the same trial they just sat through with a totally different skew on it.
Yep.
Totally different story. The more I learned about the OJ trial, the more fucking like aggravated I got. And I think that's why it's so powerful, is because it stirs emotion in anybody for one reason or another. It's not a very like black and white case. Like everybody has an opinion strongly one way or the other, right? And my strong opinion is against the strong opinions. Like it's upsetting to me that so many people are having an emotional reaction, including myself, because like a case should be more emotionless than that. You know what I mean? But I didn't know this. So he was found not guilty in the felony trial, right? Meaning that he doesn't do jail time for it. And the main reason for that was because one of the detectives mishandled evidence. Like he accidentally brought it from one place to another, like without wearing gloves or something. And also they have tapes of him saying the N-word. And so they were trying to say like, oh, well, he's a racist. And so he tampered with evidence. And so you have to throw this trial out.
Oh.
That was the main, and then that stirred the whole racist debate. And then everyone on the prosecution side was like, hey, dog, this case is about OJ, not the fucking detective who like accidentally brought a fucking blanket where it shouldn't have been. Like it's about OJ. Like, have you considered all the other evidence, right? And so it became a race thing and like it fucking spiraled from there. But after the felony case, the family of the deceased sued him for a civil case, which is not jail time. It's just money compensation. And he was found overwhelmingly guilty in that case. And he was made to pay the families $33 million.
Wow.
How much money do you think they've gotten to this day?
Oh, probably 4 or 5.
$0.
Really?
It's quoted as OJ was walking out of the courthouse. He said to his lawyer, I'm not paying them a fucking red cent. And it's because when you go through the civil courts and stuff, right? The judicial system ends there, and there's no executive system to actually help you go get that money. The IRS won't garnish his wages. They won't liquidate his assets, none of that shit. So the families have to be the ones to go after him and pay for lawyers and pay for shit and try to get after it. And they don't have any money. So
And he's got infinite money for infinite lawyers.
Yep. And so he just like hid all his assets and stuff. At a certain point, he had to get rid of one of his houses because he didn't pay any like taxes on it for like 10 years that he owed it. So he had to give that up to the IRS, but none of that money went to the families. So they didn't get any money. And then after that, he was arrested for aggravated assault with a or robbery with a deadly weapon because he was trying to steal back some of his old football paraphernalia from some people who were trying to sell it, even though they owned it. And so then he was given 33 years from that and died in prison. I think he died in prison.
Wow.
But yeah, dude, fucking very, and like the problem is the media throws it one way or the other. Cause like the OJ trial was like fucking like 6 weeks or something like that. So depending on the day, the news outlets would be one way or the other. And the people sitting in the courtroom would be like, okay, there's decent points on both sides. Because on the one hand, like it's O.J. Simpson's blood on their bodies. And on the other hand, it's okay, well, the detective was kind of moving around. Like there's a lot of blood in O.J.'s truck. Maybe he could have brought it from there to the bodies, but like he also didn't wear gloves. So can the DNA be trusted? Like one of the blankets they used to cover the corpses while all the paparazzi was going crazy was O.J.'s blanket. So like maybe that's where his hair and stuff got on there from. So like, you know, in the courtroom, it's kind of like good points on either side. Enough, I think, to probably give some of the jurors reasonable doubt, which is all you need to not get a felony. So the reason that he got let go of the felony is because you have to prove without a shadow of a doubt, right? And in the civil case, it's just, is it more or less likely that it happened?
Right.
And that proves that people think he did it, but not without a reasonable doubt because of this evidence thing, right? So anyways, I thought that was really interesting. And apparently one of the attorneys who was like really tight with OJ through this whole trial, when OJ had to sell his home after he was like freed of jail and stuff like that, hasn't been arrested for aggravated robbery. They're sitting in the backyard and he starts crying with this his lawyer, and his lawyer's like, OJ, what's wrong? And he was like, Nicole, his wife, and I like had this specific tree planted in this yard. And we did everything we could to try to get to live here because it's not supposed to like live in this climate or whatever. And the tree is still here, but Nicole isn't, and I'm sad. And he was like, I'm sorry, OJ. And he was like, OJ was like, tell me, do you really think I did it? And then the lawyer was like, I don't know, because like a lawyer who wants to try to get an answer would be like, no, it was just a hard day. Like, you know, what happened? But he was like, no, I'm like, at this point, I'm OJ's friend. And he was like, I think you did do it. And OJ didn't like, he just sighed, and he said if Nicole didn't answer the door with a knife that night, then she would still be here. Which is like pretty much all the confirmation you need. It's a firsthand fucking testimony with a close associated friend, right? Pretty much confirms that OJ was banging on her door and she fucking showed up with a knife because he had beaten her when they were married. And she had called the police 8 times for that. And he admitted in the civil case to battering her and giving her bruises and breaking her bones and shit. And so he showed up aggravated. She showed up with a knife, and then he killed both of them and then left with the knife. And there's like 4 people that weren't called to the stand who said he left the house with a black duffel bag. He got to the airport with a black duffel bag. He ditched it at the airport. I know what trash can he threw it in, and that's probably where the murder weapon is. So if you can figure out where that is, you can figure it out. None of them were called to trial. One woman wasn't called to trial because as the paparazzi started to flood everything before the trial, she sold her rights to the story to some news thing. And then the prosecutor was like, we can technically have her testify, but it looks bad because she's already gotten paid for it. So we probably shouldn't use her. And then a couple other people, they just were never called to the stand.
Wow.
Totally should have been. They didn't.
Interesting.
So yeah, I think that the OJ case is like a great example of how social media can make like echo chambers. And like you see it a lot. Like we just got through an election. Like that happened the same way, where it's like false rumors just like self-perpetuate themselves until someone finds out that it's not true, and then they just stop running the story instead of like now telling the truth about it. That was the whole like Russiagate thing in 2020 with Trump, right? Where everyone was like, oh, like, Trump is colluding with Russia to rig the election. And then they found out that that's actually not true.
Yeah.
They just didn't talk about
You know what's so funny too is like all the media was swung a certain way on that topic. But my baba watches Russian news. We have like Russian TV
Right.
at home with my baba. And it was very interesting because between like 2016 and 2020, she was like, I really don't like Trump because he's just been so hard on Russia. Like just so hard to a point like it's completely suffocating the economy. Because she's, obviously grew up in Russia. She's really pro-Russian. And I get it, and she's an amazing person. But it is just really interesting to see the American media being like, Trump's colluding with Russia and he's working with them to better their economy. But like people who like can stay in tune with Russian news or like from Russia and have a lot of heritage there are like, dude, Trump is so bad for Russia.
Yeah.
Like so bad. It's just really interesting to see that comparison.
Yeah. Dude, I was talking to Grace. I saw something online that was like, it was a TikTok where it was like, this is a great example of TikTok bringing me my news, right? And someone was like, oh, Trump announced 25% tariffs on Canada. So Canada responded with 25% tariffs on America. And so Trump just doubled it to 50. He was like, if you want to measure dicks, I'll win every time. But this is a great bargaining chip for Trump because now he can use this to get other things like, the border security or whatever else he wants, access to oil and stuff.
Yep.
And it's funny because it's like fabricating a problem that you can then solve by negotiating. It's pretty much like me holding you at gunpoint and then being like, we can solve this by you giving me all your money.
Yeah.
Where it's like you're fabricating the issue. But Grace was like, that's bad because like we're going to end up paying more money for everything. And I was like, no, man, we might for like a year, but then everyone's going to move to the US and then everyone's going to make more money. Our GDP goes up.
Also, I heard a really good argument for the immigration deportation thing. And it's like, what?
I don't know of any arguments against it.
No. Well, there are arguments against it. The main argument against it is that a lot of the people that we'll be deporting are working in our farms and in the fields,
Non-crew.
Right. Yeah. Right. Getting our food,
non-violent,
like stuff like that. And like food prices will go up.
Right.
And like, it was really interesting because I was listening to Michael Knowles, who's very, very conservative. And he was like, this is factually true. Like there are a lot of illegal migrants who pick tomatoes and other fruits and vegetables and whatever. And that's part of the reason why our costs are relatively low for those things. But we cannot sustain our economy by banking on this illegal route of migrants coming in to support these jobs. We have to solve this issue as soon as possible because it's not sustainable long term. Right. And so it was a really interesting kind of perspective of like, yes, it's a little bit of pain right now, growing pain while we get through this issue, but we can't do this long term. It's just unsustainable to have millions and millions of illegals coming across our border to like hopefully get these jobs to keep our prices low. It's like, how is that sustainable long term? It was just really interesting argument. It's like, yes, there are a lot of illegal migrants picking up these jobs that other people don't want to pick up. But at the same time, we have to figure out a way so that we don't have to, have a basically open border in order to fill that problem. You know what I mean? Like it's a really interesting comparison.
Well, it's like if you take the illegal migrants who are doing the farming jobs away, then what happens? Okay, well, we have like a 13% unemployment rate. So like all of the unemployed Americans can go do those jobs now. Right?
Yeah.
And if you want to say, oh, well, it's better because they don't pay the migrant workers as much as they would like American citizens. It's like, okay, well, is that cool either? Like now we're getting closer to like indentured servitude and slavery. We want to move away from that. So
right. But
that's not fair either.
I'm so Like, honestly, like, I feel like I'm just kind of ill-informed and ill-versed on it because there are so many, every single time I look into like tariffs or taxes or solving wage issues and stuff like that, there are so many layers to it.
A lot of it.
And like, there's so many variables that, like, to just claim that because illegal migrants are going to leave, every single price on groceries is going to double is like grossly oversimplifying the problem to where, like, for example, with the I heard the tax thing, like eliminating oh
Income
god,
tax.
or like a lot of these, yeah, eliminate income tax, or maybe this had to do with subsidies or something like that. But it's like there, I don't remember the full thing, but as Elon was talking through it, there were so many layers to it, and like where you could reallocate money in strategic ways in order to have, like, on the outside you think, oh, this is going to hurt the American people, but the way the money's being reallocated and redistributed, it can actually help the American people. And so there's just like so many layers to this problem that,
Yeah.
like, I feel like a lot of social media, to get back on our social media topic, tries to oversimplify it in these 15-second clips, and you just can't do that, right?
Right.
And it's like, I think where the one thing I wrote down is that it's really down to the user to analyze how they use social media. So if you're just using it for fun or research or whatever, like, game on. But if you're using it as like the end all be all of like your research and your knowledge, like, you really got to check yourself, because that's not a reliable source for like a full encompassing view of every single issue around the world,
Right.
right?
The next point I have is on decisiveness, because social media pushes you to rapidly pick a side, right? So when you see a TikTok that talks about the tariffs, they go, oh, well, a tariff is a tax that an American company pays on an import from another country. And so instead of not buying it, they're just going to increase their prices, and then American consumers are going to pay more, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay. At first, yes, but
Maybe.
if they increase their prices, maybe Americans buy less of it. So now that incentivizes the company who's making less sales because the American importer isn't buying as much to move to the US. I just saw today that Audi and Porsche are starting to build manufacturing facilities in the US to avoid the tariffs.
Also, this it completely negates like the negotiation process.
Right.
Trump could call up Apple and be like, "Hey, I'm going to be raising tariffs on China. All your iPhone prices are going to go up. But guess what? I've lowered regulations.
Mm.
I've eliminated taxes on X, Y, and Z aspects of your business, and I can help you build a factory in the United States,
Mhm.
and you can negate all of these tariff issues that you're going to have because I'm raising tariffs on China."
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's so much negotiation at play in the middle
Right.
that completely gets washed out when you just look at a 15-second clip on TikTok of someone ranting about how everything's going to go up triple in price because of these tariffs.
Yeah.
There's so many layers that, like, I think it's really important for social media to be taken with a grain of salt.
Right.
And like, when you're going to look at these different things, to really kind of have the self-reflection and perspective of like, I don't know everything about everything, and just because I listen to someone who sounds like they know everything about everything doesn't mean that I now know everything about everything, right?
Yeah. It's kind of like saying, oh, well, like pick a specific, like the tariffs are a big one right now,
Mhm.
right? Like, oh, Trump is imposing tariffs, and that means that the American consumer is going to pay more, and that's bad. That's kind of like saying we're designing an engine and you want to decrease the displacement, so we're going to lose power, and that's bad.
Right.
It's like there's so many other factors that if you consider, like, you could make you could make a worse engine with less displacement. We could also make a better engine. It
Yeah.
depends on like what other sacrifices you're willing to make
Absolutely.
and what all the other variables are. And
Yeah.
so this decisiveness point that I have really sucks, because I feel like it's very rare that you see someone on social media say, this is a variable and here are the potential outcomes. You decide how you feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
The guy who I've been watching recently, his name is Amir Odom. And he's a black gay Gen Zer. I think he was born in like 1998. So he's like our age, who's Republican.
Mm-hmm.
And he talks about how, like, you know, people who are super, super, super left and also gay and bi and black and whatever, he's making the case to them like, hey, listen, just because you have the title of black and gay and bi doesn't mean that you have to be liberal or like super far left. Like, not to say that you have to be right either, but like, don't be pigeonholed into something because of the titles that you hold. Like, you can be whoever you want to be. And so let me explain to you why I am voting for Trump this election cycle. And then he breaks it down. And it's one of the reasons I like him in social media is because he doesn't have this decisiveness. He's like, you know, if you want to do this, then that's fine, dude. Like, I get it. Like, consider this though. And like, I've thought about it and here's my opinion. He's very transparent about it, which I like a lot. Another one I have is the comparison analysis. So directly comparing yourself to other people, that could be a positive or a negative. Because if you compare yourself to other people and think less of yourself and don't do anything about it, then you'll get depressed and kill yourself. If you look at other people and think that you're less than them, maybe that motivates you to get to work. And so it could kind of go one way or the other, right? So I have here, after that, directly comparing yourself to the success of others. After that, do you live life to put stuff online, or do you do it because you actually enjoy it? So it's like, are you building your dropshipping site so that you can post a picture on your yacht for other people to see? Or are you building your dropshipping site because you want to build a dropshipping site and like, I don't care what other people think, right?
Yeah.
And so like so a big one was Valentine's Day just passed a couple days ago. And like everybody posts their significant other for Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
And at the end of the night while we were getting into bed, I was scrolling through my phone and I was laughing with Grace because I was like, dude, I love watching all of these people post about the other people in their life, because like we just turned our phones off for the day and enjoyed the day together and like didn't post anything about it. And I think Grace posted a couple photos the next day, but it's like, I don't need the external validation of somebody.
Yeah. I haven't posted on social media in fucking years.
Dude, my last post is from, I think it was like August of 2023 or something like that.
It's mine's probably around there, or 2022 either.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
I think it was 2023. It might be 2024. It might be June of 2024. I don't know. It's been a long time.
Yeah, but the point being is like,
there's not a lot.
neither of us are on it weekly to post.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And it's like, dude, like if we're dating and I don't see a post that you have made about me proclaiming your love for all to see, am I going to be upset about that?
Yeah.
And it's like, no, because like you're posting it so that everyone else can see it, and me included. And like you're putting me on a pedestal in front of everybody else. And so how vain is it to get upset that your significant other didn't post you for everyone else to see?
Yeah.
Right. I'm sure I'll bring that up in the marriage one when we talk about that podcast topic. I think that'll be a fun one. I just haven't had the time to dedicate to it yet.
Yeah.
But that's what I have for segment 2.
Yeah, I talked about my point.
Good. Okay. So segment 3 is on how we personally use or limit social media. So we've established what benefits and shortfalls we think there are. But I want to know, have you found yourself succumbing to the pitfalls? And if so, how have you combated it?
Absolutely. I used to spend way too much time on social media.
How much time?
Probably 2 hours a day.
That's a lot of time.
Between like, waking up, spending 20 minutes.
Right.
And then going to work and, spending probably an hour. Probably shouldn't say that.
You know what sucks about Northrop?
Spending significant time.
Classified bathrooms.
Yeah.
You know what the weirdest part about classified bathrooms is?
All you have to do is listen to other people shitting.
All you have to do is listen to other people shitting. But all everyone else is doing is listening to you shit. So you're sitting there just staring at your reflection in the fucking plastic like covering on the door, and like knowing that everyone else is doing the same thing. And so I used to be like really timid about shitting in public when I was a kid, because I was like, oh, like I'm really afraid that I'm going to like let one rip and then someone's going to be like, ew, that's so gross. Like, who are you? And like look at my shoes and then figure out who I am later and be like, you're a loud shitter. Like, I don't know. It was like so the subliminal thing. And then eventually I got to the point where I was like, dude, this is what this room is for. You know what I mean? But then I realized that other people, like the snakes are more afraid of you than you are of them. So like the other people are just as afraid of making those noises. So I can clear out a bathroom within 10 seconds of sitting down. So one of my favorite games to play is after I sit down, how long until I start to hear other people like grabbing the toilet paper to and it's like an asserting your dominance kind of play. But there's nothing else to do in those bathrooms.
The Northrop bathroom is tribal in nature.
Dude, it's so funny. Because like you sit there and you're like, well, I know everyone else is sitting there with their thoughts too, because you can't have your phone or headphones or anything like that. You can't bring a book in there. So like everyone's just listening to everyone else shitting.
Yeah.
So yeah, tons of
fucking funny.
But
yeah, I definitely used to. I think some things that helped me were time limits with other people who had the passcode to relieve those time limits.
Mm-hmm.
And also keeping myself productive and busy naturally decrease the amount of time I spend on social media because I'm busy and productive doing other things that matter more, and therefore I don't want to sit on social media.
Right.
Right. I think those two things have been really big for me, especially with drop shipping over the past month. Like my dedication level has been really, really intense to making that work and getting it going.
Right.
And so it's like I don't even want to scroll on social media because I have other stuff to do that I know is working towards something greater. So I think having like goals and checkpoints that you want to reach and stuff like that can really help alleviate a lot of, just generally speaking, distractions in your life. We're talking about social media specifically, but
Yeah.
it could be Netflix. It could be.
I mean, that's exactly how I got better eating habits.
Yeah.
Because I think part of the reason that people get heavier from like high school to college to adult life is because you have less going on. And it's not that you're moving less or moving more, but it's that when you're in high school, you're go, go, go. And like you might grab a snack on the go, but very rarely, apart from dinner, do you sit down and eat like a dedicated meal, right?
Mhm.
But when I sit at my desk at work and I'm not fucking like I'm brain dead in an Excel sheet or knee deep in a PowerPoint, right? I want to snack on something.
Yeah.
And a lot of adults do. A lot of people have a candy bowl at their desk or like fucking trail mix or beef jerky that they bring.
Yeah.
Like they just fucking chow down on it.
Yeah.
And so I find myself another reason that I'm looking forward to the real estate stuff is that you're more on the go and there's less time to snack and you don't want to snack because you're busy doing other things. If you get hungry, it's because you're genuinely hungry. And you're like, fuck, I got to find like, a smoothie or a sandwich or something, like a legit thing.
Yeah.
Um,
I did a 3-day fast this week from Monday to Wednesday. And Saturday and Sunday, I almost completely fasted by accident because I was just busy. So it was like I had like one meal Saturday and one meal Sunday.
yeah.
And like and then I didn't eat anything Monday through Wednesday.
Right.
But it was just because I was like busy and on the go and doing stuff all the time. And so it's like it's the same thing with social media. Like if you keep yourself occupied with other things that you enjoy more, that'll naturally fall out of your life.
Yeah. I think a lot of people struggle with not having a lot going on outside of their life.
Yeah.
Like I know a lot of people that I work with, they'll ask me like, "What are you doing this weekend?" And I'm like, "Working." And they're like, "Talk me through like a day after work." And I go, "Okay, cool." So I leave work and I go to the gym, and then I go home, I get changed, maybe I eat dinner, and then I go to the bar and work. And they're like, "Oh, so like you don't spend a lot of time at home." I was like, "No, do you?" And they're like, "Yeah, after work I go straight home and then I like, relax and like I like take a load off and I chill out and I like, like take my socks off and I like,
Yeah.
hang out. Maybe I'll be on Instagram for a bit. Maybe I'll play some video games." And I'm like, not me, dog. Like I could do that for one day. And at the end of that day, I won't be able to go to sleep because I'll be like fucking freaking out that I didn't do anything that day.
Yeah.
But I think that people can succumb to the pitfalls super easily because if you don't have something more important or more engaging going on, then like genuinely, if you have nothing better to do than doom scroll, then you're gonna doom scroll. And you'll probably do that forever because you don't have anything better going on in your life. So if you don't have
And
something
like you mentioned earlier, the danger about doom scrolling is that if you watch a video of someone being productive, you feel as though you've been productive.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you watch a video of someone working out, you feel as though you've worked out.
And that's a positive feedback loop where you keep doing it, you keep feeling better. And like, let's face it, you spend more time looking at your phone
And
you in the mirror.
on top of that, for all you social media users, literally my entire job right now is to make addictive content that you watch. So it's like, like be mindful and aware of the shit you consume.
Right.
Because I'm not doing it out of malicious intent. I think I have a good product and I want to sell it to people and market it to the correct people. But like the entire job of everyone on social media who does anything more than just like create fun content once a week is to get you hooked.
Yeah.
Like that's the entire point.
Yeah, exactly.
I pay literally thousands of dollars a week to run advertisements to get you to buy my shit. Like be aware of that.
Yeah.
Something
that I'm struggling to get over with the real estate stuff is that if I'm working with a client, I don't have to think they're a good person or making a good financial decision to help them get a house. I'm literally just supposed to be a legal representation of their desire.
Yeah.
So when I'm talking to the other, like if I'm working with a buyer and I'm working with a seller and his agent, right? He and I are talking. It's like we're the face. It's like we're the translator for our client. So it's like, regardless of whether or not I think it's a good decision, I just have to relay that to the other people. I'm just a vessel to get what they want, whether or not I think it's a good idea. You can advise them to a certain point, but like you can't say if the neighborhood is a bad area or if crime is high or if you think that this is a fair price or something like that. the best you can do is like a gross approximation. It's called the buyer's price opinion, which is like just a spitball of like if you think that the property is worth what they're asking for, right? But like generally speaking, it's not like ideally I would want to sell my product from a dropshipping store to like or any product really to like a good person who's worth selling to.
Yeah.
But what I'm starting to learn is that it's like, oh, it doesn't matter who is buying, just help them out.
Yeah. Yeah. And I genuinely think that I have a pretty good product, and I do provide really good customer support. If anyone goes to Sweeker.com, I fucking respond fast to those fucking emails. So, I try to be a good, honest seller, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
provide really good customer support. But, you know, I hear you. I hear you. I didn't have much else on this topic.
That's okay. That's okay.
I went through my bullet point. Yeah.
I have a couple things. So I used to post on Snapchat a lot. I had a YouTube channel called Six Speed Shop, where my friend Sean and I would work on cars. So it was like an automotive YouTube channel. And I would post long form, like, I don't know, 15-minute videos on YouTube. And then I would post short form on my Snapchat story, like every day of the stuff that we were working on. And I went through a bad breakup. And so I just like turned my phone off for 2 weeks. I put it in a drawer and I left it there for 2 weeks. And when I came back, I blocked out like a 2-hour chunk of time to respond to everybody on my phone. And I opened the phone up and I had like email the notifications, and that was it. No one gave a fuck about the Snapchat. And so at that point, I had a revelation where I was like, oh, no one actually gives a fuck, and I don't have to do this every day. And then I realized I was posting because I thought other people liked it, not because I enjoyed doing it. It actually took time and was almost bothersome to me. The YouTube was really bothersome because editing takes a long ass fucking time. But I got to the point where I was like, this isn't really like benefiting me. It's just, I thought other people cared. And if other people don't care, then I won't post about it. And then I got over the fact that like, oh, like other people don't live their life waiting for you. You know what I mean? Like if I don't post, I'm not going to ruin somebody's night. So I just deleted Snapchat, and that was a big one. Cause even now I had dinner the other week with my friend from high school. And he was talking about Snapchat. And he was like, oh, like, did you see my story? And I was like, I deleted Snapchat like 3 years ago. And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, dog. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's almost like if I'm speaking to somebody and then they ask for my Snapchat, it's like, oh, like you don't want to have like a real personal connection. You just kind of want to like, kind of like flex on me, right? Like you want me to like watch your stories and stuff, or you want to see what I do every day. And so you're trying to like get a glimpse into my personal life. And it's like, I'd rather just text. I'd rather just talk about when we're going to meet up and hang out. You know what I mean? So I deleted Snapchat. Algorithm control is a new one that I'm doing where I have found that I can get the exact type of feed that I want in like less than 3 minutes from TikTok or Instagram just by moving my face with the videos that I want. So if I swipe on a video and I make like a gross face or like I look away or something, right? Then it won't show me another one of those. And I just do, there's only like 5 different types, right? There's like funny, informational, someone getting hurt, car stuff, or ass. Like that's pretty much it, right? And so as I work through those, whatever I want to see, I just like act negatively to the other ones, and it learns really fast what you actually want to be watching. So
That's kind of terrifying.
when TikTok was deleted and everyone came over to Instagram Reels, I was really worried that my terrible shit was going to go away. But then I realized, and like it started to, and I was like, oh no, I'm just actually watching some of the other content. If I ignore it and I'm like, and I scroll really quickly, then it goes back to the stuff that I want. And then if I widen my eyes and I smile like a fucking crazy person at my phone, it dead ass will show me more of those videos. If I spend longer on it, if I engage by liking or commenting or saving it, right, then it shows me more of those. So like now I can tailor my algorithm based on my mood in like under 3 minutes.
Wow.
And so that's an interesting thing that I've done recently, because if I know what kind of content I get hooked with and what kind of content I don't. So I know that if I only have like 3 or 4 minutes to scroll right now, don't just watch whatever comes up on your phone. Like if it's 3 or 4 minutes, I'm probably interested in the news. So I'll act more positively on the news ones to try to figure out what's going on, you know, in the world right now. So that's another trick that I use. But yeah, in general, I don't think my screen time is that high. I think TikTok daily is probably like 20 minutes.
Yeah, I've gotten a lot better.
Yeah, it's aggregated over the course of the whole day. So it's not like I sit down at lunch and go through it for 20 minutes. It's like in 5-minute intervals. And usually it's like, it's kind of like if you're riding in the elevator, what are you going to do? Am I going to stand there and look at my dick, or am I going to like scroll on TikTok for 30 seconds? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what I do. But I'm much less dependent on it now than I used to be, and I'm really happy about that. And I've kind of figured out where the benefit is and where the shortcomings are. So like Alex Ramose's stuff is really good. I enjoy his stuff. So I give a lot of positive feedback to that, usually no matter what kind of content I'm watching. Because even if I just want to see people getting hurt, if I respond positively to a Hormozy one, then odds are like it'll pop up for every 5 or 10 people getting hurt videos. And then I end up learning something while I'm like, watching the stuff that I like to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a slippery slope, man. I think it could be a tool or a trap dependent on how you use it as a TLDR.
Agree.
All right. I have a dial-in quote today.
All right.
It's a Hormozy quote. The quote is, "You can learn something from everyone, but only take in that which makes you stronger." And I like that because you can doom scroll for 35 minutes and you can watch 32 minutes of bullshit. But if 3 of those minutes are valuable, if you're going to be doom scrolling anyways, make an effort to remember those 3 minutes. You know what I mean? Because some people like to doom scroll and that's your free time. But if you can get a little bit of efficiency out of free time, that's a good thing.
Very true.
That's all I got.
Have a great week.